Well, it's cold outside, so we're going to try and get toasty again today. Some of us remember last week we did some jumping, and I plan to definitely get us up on some of that again. Um, I want to just kind of remind us of some of the values of it. It's not just jumping for the sake of jumping or just getting our heart rate up, but it's a lot of those downstream effects of having the heart rate get up, improved circulation, improved immune system, improved mood, which I know people struggle with this time of year with the fewer daylight hours, or gosh, we had such a long stretch of gray there for a while. And we often don't think about the effect, the actual effective impact of jumping. And you don't have to be jumping hard. I'm not talking about like trying to shoot high hoops. I'm talking about just literally like springing just a little off the ground, would be plenty, to create more active circulation, not just blood, but movement in our lymph, in our organs, literally from the up and the down with gravity. So all of those things can be really useful. And I think strengthening some of the muscles and tendons, things around the joints that produce power. In fact, I was talking to one of our yogis who's here on Zoom this morning. They've been painting. So up and down ladders, up and down ladders. And of course, you being a painter know everything about that. But if you think about the rest of us daily life, I mean, you only are using those for the most part. Like, I'm now sitting for breakfast. Now I'm up. I mean, that's about the extent of it throughout the day, is these just little sitting and getting up. Whereas, again, this sort of impact and catching ourselves on the down and coming back up, very, very different kind of intelligence building for all of those connections around the joints and stabilizing. And I think that's useful year round. I think it's really key in the winter when we're less mobile, we tend to do less. We're not cycling and things, but also B, when we go out to do things like shoveling or what have you, that really, if we're doing it right, require use of those joints. Now we've got strong and stable joints and we're less likely to get hurt. And that's what we're looking to do, is be healthy and happy all the time. So we're going to start off on our back body. Today, we're going to get into some of our just most basic breath practices, one of which, as you guys know, is compression and expansion breathing, which I made up. It's just a slowed down version of 3-part breath. So it's just simplified. In addition to being great for our breath and our core, it is really helpful for helping people who tend to struggle with depression and anxiety, because it jumpstarts our nervous system back into that kind of rest and digest space. So as we're entering this, I want you to notice in your body, how easy or difficult is it to get that full breath wave versus it just being isolated in the chest space. Let's start off with a few sighing breaths to start. So inhaling slow, deep and wide through the nose. I like to think of sighing breath as a massage for our nervous system. It helps calm the amygdala, the alarm center of our brain. And it's something you can do anytime throughout the day. So I don't know what kind of day you've got ahead of you or what kind of week, but if you know that you've got some stress moments, hurry and worry coming up, I want you to remember back to this moment, to this tool, and hopefully use it again wherever you are, driving, walking, eating. When the sighing is complete, you'll close the mouth if you can. If you're stuffy and you need to use the mouth to breathe, you can. Otherwise, simply nose breathing, slow, deep, and wide. And I'm going to have you add a few acts that help cultivate introversion, help keep you present inside what's happening in your body. Number 1, closing your eyes and then turning your gaze up and in as if you're looking behind the center of the forehead. We call it the third eye. And from there, you might just notice what's present. How is the version of you that you brought to yoga this morning? Then lightly connecting the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, right behind the front teeth. Mouth closed, softness through the rest of the tongue and the jaw. This says, I am here in my yoga. There's nothing else to accomplish, non-striving. Lastly, inviting you to add ujjayi, great sounding breath. Just contract your throat a little bit. And as the breath passes through, it makes the sound of wind or waves. I'm going to invite everybody in these first few moments. I have the music off on purpose to just create that sound enough that you can hear it, and maybe even your yogi neighbors here can begin to hear that wind in the trees, the ocean waves. We'll do a few more breaths, just focusing on that rising of the breath wave, finding the gap, and then the exhale, settling the breath wave. One of my favorite kind of mantras to help me stay present with the breath is asking, is there more? So as I'm witnessing the inhale, expanding, I ask, is there more? And there usually is. We're going to now move into our compression and expansion breathing. And if you need to have knees bent to be comfortable, of course, please do. Otherwise, feet are flat underneath the knees. Body is on the floor. And we're going to just isolate our beautiful core body, inhaling slow, deep, and wide. Exhaling, begin to contract belly towards spine, spine towards floor. You should feel that low back flatten in against the mat, feeling the pelvis tilt up. Asking, is there more? Can I squish out any more? When there is absolutely nothing left, relax. Allow that inhale breath wave. And towards the very end, when you think it's almost complete, sip in a little extra. And as we continue this rhythm of pressing out every drop and then inviting the breath wave, I hope that you'll start to witness truly that wave of the inhale coming all the way up the spine and almost kind of overflowing into your chest and clavicle and throat area. Maybe you even feel that kind of spinal undulation comes with it. Really getting spinal fluid moving. I love it. It affects every part of our body and being. During those exhale compression breaths, I'd love you to check and make sure that you're not tightening through the neck. So rolling the head side to side can be one way to do that. Scan the eyebrows, tongue, and all these other areas that don't need to contract, but sometimes we do it without even realizing. What happens if you even add a small smile? Does that change anything for you? I'm going to offer some add-ons. You're welcome to leave or take them. On the inhale, opportunity to sweep arms overhead. And this will change the experience of the inhale, cultivating breath expansion, stretch in some nice, interesting spots. On the exhale, opportunity to come into rock pose. So still belly towards spine, towards floor, and then squeezing. Hands into fists, arms at the sides, butt cheeks, thighs. And you can either just soften completely on the inhale or enjoy that sweeping overhead. Notice what feels right I've got my arms overhead and I'm just adding some ankle and wrist rolling because all of a sudden that just sounded good. On my exhale compression, I'm gonna have a little sit-up motion. Looking at my fabulous feet that have been carrying me around, mostly uncomplainingly. I hope you're getting that wonderful bucket overflowing feeling. I don't know how else to describe it, but that can happen, particularly when we're laying down and allowing that last inhale. There's a reason I have us practice this laying down. And it's because a lot of people, if they try to focus on getting a deep breath, will find themselves shrugging to get that breath, when in fact, we need the shoulders to stay relaxed and just trust the breath way. We'll do about 3 more. Good, I'm hearing some nice ujjayi. The next time you're inhaling, inviting you to stay arms overhead, bring arms overhead, and just begin organically stretching there, reaching through hands and feet, and maybe you're rolling out wrists and ankles. Oh, maybe yawning. Oh, love you, honey. And then you might clasp one hand around the opposite wrist and draw forward. And the other. Oh. Lovely. We're going to clasp our hands around our right knee in release wind pose. Shoulder heads are anchored, no wings, no shrugs. Feet are flexed firmly. And this will help us engage that left thigh down towards the floor, which will increase the hip stretch. Let's switch. See what's in that other side. Are they different? We progressively are drawing the knee towards the chest and reaching away through the opposite heel and down the thigh bone. Let's switch again. Breathing deeply into the belly, sending the belly towards the thigh. Last switch, left knee in. Again, noticing, is there a difference in one hip over the other? We're going to bring our right knee in one last time and clasp the foot in the left hand, if you can. If that just does not work for you, then you might just cross it onto your left thigh like we do in reclined pigeon. And you can play there with wagging the knee and so on. If you've got hold of that foot, you might be able to just come into a little sit-up motion. And I love sort of hugging that knee and going side to side, rocking. Gives me a little spinal twist along with some hip movement. And I'm going to come on out and send that right leg to the sky. Anybody else have tight hamstrings this morning? Jeez, I feel like I never used to feel the stretch in this shape. On your exhale, root that powerful core, that same low back anchoring that you did in compression. And slowly descend your legs, soft neck and face. And when you reach the floor, practice melting. We did this a lot in last week's class, really trying to train ourselves to go from engagement to non-doing. Lovely. We'll bring the left knee in, clasping that foot with the right hand or using the alternate. Again, no wings, no shrugs. Yeah, you can send that leg a little side to side. And if you want, you can add a sit up and do that. Long inhale, extending the leg. Is this side different? Oof. Exhale, root, ascend. Liquid in the back of that neck head area. And melting. Let's come into abdominal pumping. Inhaling slow, deep and wide. Exhale, empty. And hold out. Draw the belly towards the spine. Press towards the ceiling. Drop in and out. Till you need to breathe. Oh, sometimes I just sigh and breath in between belly pumping. It's just so much muscular effort. Let's do one more. So this is giving some of the same organ movement and so on that we'll be also getting jumping. Just notice how amazing that is, how much movement available there is in this area that we don't think very much about. When that feels complete, we'll bring both knees into the belly. Nice little rocking side to side, maybe just small movements. Maybe you're like, oh, I really need to go all the way to one side, all the way to the other. Make it organic. You know, this is your own little body dance. It's a chance to explore space and notice what's needed if nothing else to accomplish. Eventually, we're gonna come back towards center and we're gonna take those knees wide for happy baby. So maybe you're clasping at the ankles, maybe the blades of the feet are big toe, or using a strap across the arches. But I'm gonna ask you to once again, see if you can anchor your low back. So that means tilting your tailbone down towards the floor. And with that stability, if you then draw your knees closer to the floor and breathe, you should be able to get some really good massage into that low back and pelvis. People ask you where you're going Tuesday mornings, you should just be like, massage. And I love half straddle. And here's my favorite way to go about it. I'm gonna let my heels just drop by my butt, and tuck my hands in behind my knees. Take those knees as wide as they'll go before straightening out one leg. Flexing and pointing through the foot, exploring the other. This is a great chance to notice, are you able to get the leg straight? And if not, please try to maybe bend it even more and straighten it. And what's cool about that is you're really reorganizing the kind of communication and strength intelligence in your partnering muscle groups, quadricep to hamstring, front and back of the thigh, and what we were talking about earlier, all those connections around the knee joints, which we really want to take good care of. Looking good. Option, if you'd like to bring those heels together in butterfly. And you might rock a little side to side, you get a little sit up. Imagine you're trying to kiss your foot. Mwah. Thanks for being such a good foot. And then we're going to release for bridge pose, planting the feet flat beneath the knees, anchoring the upper arms, working the shoulder blades a little in before sending the hips up. We're going to just do a little pulsing here. So inhale to send the hips just a couple inches. Think about squeezing that imaginary block. Exhale and raise the hips. And progressively, I want you to think about sending the knees away from you, bringing the heart up and towards your chin. And if you're feeling neck pressure, bring your chin further up and back. That will release that pull from the spine. And if you want, by the way, you can do that pulsing without varying with the breath. You can just make it a faster pulse and sinking and then rising, squeezing that imaginary block. Let's do one more. Lovely. We're going to add our foot hover, and if you feel stable enough, you can go ahead and extend the leg, which might feel really good after all that hamstring work. See what you think. Release on. Love. We're going to come on up. Woo! And give enough momentum to rock there. We're going to come up to our hands and knees in table pose. I don't think that's ever happened to me. That's hilarious. I was like, wait, what's happening? I'm so glad life isn't boring, right? It's recorded. Yeah, this is great. All right, intelligent hands. So this is what we were talking about a little earlier when I was talking about plank and the danger of having your hands a little forward. This is your place to test it out. I want you to feel that the pressure is in the full circle of the palm, not in the blade or the kind of bottom of the palm by the wrist. next, right? And then really spread those fingers. Inhale, draw the heart forward, tailbone back. Exhale, tuck the tailbone. Let that head hang. Be here for, a number of rounds. So this is a great chance to just notice, what's needed. Maybe you're needing to do some wagging. Maybe you're wiggling the head a little. We're going to come into our first downward facing dog at some point. When we do, I want you to think about the same action of the core that you used in compression, right? Belly to spine, instead of to floor, it's spine to ceiling. And use that to send the hips up and back, knees bent. You might never straighten your knees in downward dog, and you don't have to. And in fact, a lot of us will have a better downward dog. If you try to straighten your legs, that'll bring a lot of people's shoulders forward over the hands, and I don't want that. I want your body to make kind of a nice A shape, a beautiful long angular line from the hands to the hips. For support, how do you know? Try lifting one hand and the other. It just shouldn't be a big deal. And from there now, let's put downward pressure through one heel at a time. A very slow pedal so you can feel what's in those calves. You might even enjoy them going the opposite way, just curling the top of the foot towards the floor. We're going to inhale to our plank and very quickly drop to knees. Right, so this is less of a big deal on the wrist this way. Nothing else changed. So there's no hip sway. And your hands should be right below the shoulders. And we're just going to do that mini chaturanga. Just bend the elbows an inch or so and straighten them. Breathing, noticing, staying calm. And then just see if you can go further with integrity. Only go as far as you can go without giving it up. And then give it all up. All at one time. Flop on down. You got it. It's all right. We're going to rest on the forehead and slowly bring our hands behind for yoga mudra. So I find it helpful to sometimes kind of circle my shoulders before I ask them to get deep into the pose. Intertwining those fingers, you got it. Anchor through the pelvic triangle. And that should make it easier to send your knuckles towards the back wall. So you want your palms facing each other. Yeah. And then reaching back with your knuckles, maybe up off the butt. And let go. I often find it's an incredible amount of work. Like that will get my heart rate up, but that's because I'm having to work so much against my own tension, right? If you're just super limber and you're like, yeah, I don't know, I don't feel anything, you won't have that effect. But isn't it fun that working with our own tension can actually give us good heart rate stuff? So can forearm plank. Let's go. Yeah. Our favorite little friend, just always waiting in the shadows for us to give us some heat, some core strength without any shoulder wrist stuff, right? But let's make sure those shoulders are down. And then we draw our belly and our spine into the back. I like doing knee down first because then I can really check in, make sure everything's happy, neck is soft. If you want to come onto your feet, go for it. Looking good. Yeah. Maybe you want to do a little side to side shimmy because you're enjoying the groove. We've got some groove music on this morning. And most importantly is that breathing. See if you've got 1, 2, or 3 more breaths in there with integrity. Maybe a soft smile because you're like, I'm doing it. And in your own time, release. Get soft, whatever that looks like. Last week we did this a bunch. We did hip rocking. We did lower leg windshield wipering. So those are always tools available when we're on our belly and we've maybe come out of a core intensive pose or you're feeling a little stuff in your low back. You can always go to child's pose too. Okay. We're going to take flight. I also want to make sure in every single class that we do something that really strengthens our back. Fingertips are tented, shoulder heads anchor down, anchor pelvis. And we're going to play with flight. So it could be just your arms, it could be the spine. You could have your arms back in jet airplane, you can have them straight out in that glider plane, 90 degrees. You can come in and out, and I love doing that. I love relaxing completely, and then letting my next breath bring me into flight. I tend to keep my thighs anchored because I get less low back stuff. And really what we're wanting is like mid and upper back. That's where we want to feel that power. You guys look great. You know, there are people who cannot extend up off the floor like this. In fact, my chiropractor and I were talking about, he knows all these guys who are like, yeah, I do 50 push-ups a day. And he's like, do you do anything for your back? And you try and get those guys to do extension, and a lot of them cannot. Ooh, push-ups, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, push-ups can be wonderful, again, along with forearm plank and all that, just the power and the heat up and the strength. But we need that balanced strength. So what are you feeling in your back body? Do you want to hold in flight and extend one arm forward, other arm back, counter reach? Slowly switch, perhaps. I'm moving very slowly through my arms. Can you believe I sustained another real life injury? Right? There was the pump soap injury. And then this weekend, I was on my way to Eau Claire and I was driving and it got hot. So I wanted to take my coat off. And you know how funky it is when you're in a seatbelt to try and take your coat off and you have to make all these weird movements? Yeah, well, I totally irritated my right shoulder. Just crazy. I'm like, is this aging? Pump soaps? Jacket removal? I mean, come on. All right. So, yes.
When I breathe, I can push myself up more. Or isn't that
When you inhale, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the natural thing, is to extend on the inhale. And on the exhale, there's just a natural dip. And part of that is that you're expanding, through this whole column. So thank you. We're going to use that now, move back softly to our child's pose. So remember last week we did that rock and roll, the kind of porpoise pose. You don't have to do that, but it's the same preparation. No wings, no shrugs, anchor pelvis. Straighten the arms, then use the core to take you back to child's pose. And that way we're not taking our shoulders into awkward positions, hanging on our joints. Yeah, I often say, to your point, that one of the cool things about yoga is that the poses themselves allow us to experience breath differently, and we feel it in different parts of our bodies. So right now, while you're in child's pose, just naturally our abdomen is squished and more contracted. There's all this beautiful space in the back body for breath, right? It's like you just opened a whole new compartment. And when the breath comes there, what do you get? Massage. Tuesday morning massage. Yes. So play with that. How do you want to affect your massage? Last week we took arms to one side and breathed into that, and then the other side. That can be fantastic. Maybe you want to just kind of let yourself lift on the inhale and then exhale, settle more deeply. Sometimes I kind of intentionally raise one shoulder, like I'm kind of looking under my armpit, and then the other. And I find that that will move that massage stretch from joint to joint. We'll do another couple of breaths here. I remember an interview they did with 3 very famous yogis. These are people who can do every complicated athletic pose that, you would ever imagine. And they asked them what their favorite poses were. Child's pose, Shavasana, and I can't remember the other one now. I mean, it might have been like tree pose or something, but it's not what you would think, right? They're not like headstand with the blah, blah, blah. So, all right, we're going to come on up into our cat back and take that to downward facing dog. If being in downward facing dog is too much on your wrists or what have you, go to table instead, and you'll be able to join us. We're adding some raising of leg one at a time. So if you're in table, it looks like this. Everybody heels flexed. So really powerful. I want you to look that your toes are pointed straight down. This was a big challenge for some of you last week. Like you didn't seem to kind of know that your toes rotated out. And that's just where your muscularity naturally took you. So this is a chance to train some of the other muscles that hold the legs and the hip joint. So notice if it feels weird, but slowly return that leg, switch, raise the other one. You guys are looking good. I'm not seeing elbow bending, shoulders sliding, and that's perfect. We want to maintain stability and make those other core muscles work. Compensate. Yeah. Slowly return. Beautiful. We're going to come into pumping. If you'd like, you could do more cow cat. Otherwise, opportunity for our first dog series together. Inhaling to your plank. I strongly recommend knees down for better control during chaturanga. Nice exhale, slow elbow bend, hold at your point of integrity, and then drop. Inhaling cobra. Remember, you're peeling the shoulders down, head forward. Exhaling, again, no wings, no shrugs. Downward dog. Yeah, you guys. That's such a nice change. All right, we're coming into onto knees into a balancing pose. We haven't done for a while, gate pose. Here again, it's really important that I'm activating shoulders down and I'm in my core. If I can clap, I'm probably there. Let's take the left foot back and you're going to plant it 90 degrees and you're going to push into the mat. Absolutely straight. Your foot is glued to the floor. Now look under you at your right hip and squeeze your right butt cheek towards the left edge of the mat until your thigh bone is straight up and down. When you do that, you should feel more core work happening right in that right lower belly. So as awesome. You're there. So now you can slowly raise that left hand. I like bringing it to the hip first, getting my body straight, my head straight. I tend to look down at the floor because my neck prefers it. See if you can lift your right hand. This will tell you if you're in your waist or not. And then if you want, you can raise that left arm either straight to the ceiling or, man, I love the side body stretch of reaching beyond the head. Right, so it's just like lateral stretch that we do in a warrior. Okay, so would it feel good on one last inhale, kind of rotate your ribs open to the ceiling. And slowly release. Lovely. Roll out wrists, do whatever you gotta do. And we'll do the other side. And I didn't offer this on the other side, but the first side, but in addition to raising the hand, you can also play with raising your back foot, but only after everything is stable and rooted. So again, back leg is straight. Check underneath for the, in this case, the left hip, squeeze that left glute. Draw the torso and the head back until you sense that you're in one straight line. And that will create a lot of stability. Good. Again, your shoulders are activated down, that lower waistline is rising. Okay, good. What's the And again, if you want in that last breath, open up the ribs to the ceiling, exhaling, slowly release. Inhaling cow, exhaling cat to downward facing dog, and then we're going to take our feet wide into bear pose. And in bear pose, we actually make the deepest knee bend that we possibly can. And I'm going to use that space to go a little side to side. So this is sort of like some of the good work we do in straddle, right? Again, we're getting lots of work through the ankles, the knees. Beautiful. Breathe, notice. Last week, I had you do some hopping. You can do that again if you want to. And you can do it with your feet close or wide. Kick your butt, kick your butt, kick your butt, kick your butt. And I'd rather kick my own butt than let anybody else do it. You know what I'm saying? All right. And when you are ready, land those feet and then inhale, rise up. And prayer hands. All right. Well, I picked a kind of fun little jump for us. It's only 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and you don't have to do it all. Little prince. So I like to just start by jumping like this. That lets my feet go, okay. Well, with this, I've got the flexibility, lets my knees, hips notice. And then, yeah, you start. Was fun, actually, this morning's jump I was doing to like a vintage kind of 50s song, and I totally found myself like. So you don't have to be era specific, you know, you can dance however you want. Jump roping is kind of what started this all for me. It's the idea that, man, that is such good exercise. If you get the right tune, then you're like also making faces, right? You're like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Woo-hoo, you guys are looking good. But here we go, do-si-do, I love it. I have to say, that was reminding me a little bit of aerobics back in the 90s. You know, it's worth it to me to touch that zone of discomfort in my own life. Did anybody else go to aerobics back in the 90s? It's aerobics. It had value, it was good for you. Dancercise, right? Jazzercise, that's what it was. But it's fun, and it's fun to do with people, it really is. Still a thing. Still a jazz. Yeah, no, I'm not jumping. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're almost there. You guys are doing great. We got another, can you believe it? Another minute 50? I know. Well, and in truth, my goal has been to give you 3-minute songs, but this one was 3:54. So let's do 40 more seconds. Okay, I'm gonna find a different movement. Run around the room, for sure. Actually, this morning I did have fun. I did it in the mirror in my bedroom, and I was like just entertaining myself, being a goof. So it kept me going. Hoping you're having as much fun in your living room as we are. Oh my God, I think that's it. Okay. So whenever you stop, inhale. Exhale, prayer hands. I want you to just tune in. Tune into your heart. Tune into your feet. Oh. Definitely thank yourself. It's, I know for me, and maybe it's not that hard for some of you. I know I've got people who are like endurance athletes and stuff, but it's a big hill to get up over, to just get myself to do something that gets my heart rate this much. It really is. So thank you for joining me. Let's do something very difficult, which is actually do a balancing pose with that heart rate up. So we're going to do tree pose. Bring the feet together, big toes touching, spread the toes. Feel that thigh squeeze, that tree trunk activation. And shoulders sliding down the back. Whenever you're ready, coming into either kickstand or the foot on the leg. Remember, never put the foot at the knee because it could push your knee jump. And really what we want to be doing is pressing back. So the foot is pressing, but the leg is pressing back. And of course, add in tree limbs if you'd like. If you're losing balance, notice it's usually that inner line of the foot giving away. When you're complete, come on out, maybe roll out wrists and ankles. And so, you know, we've been talking today about knee joint stability. And one of the things to just be aware of is that if you're constantly losing contact with the inner line of the foot, there's a good chance that the inner thigh is not igniting, and maybe your glutes and hips aren't as well. And that knee is not stabilized or supported the way we want it to. So this is kind of like a little litmus test, but also a chance to wake those things up. So as you're ready, bring the other foot to the calf. Flaring those toes away from the calf can actually really help ignite them a little more attention. Make sure when you place the foot that it didn't cock that hip out, and you squeeze the thighs back towards their tree trunkness. So you've got all this beautiful core activity and all this softness of breath up your face, tongue, neck. If you're not wobbling at all, close your eyes. And when you're ready, come on. Inhale, root and rise. Exhale, fold. A few deep breaths here. If you really allow deep breath while in a deep fold, there is an opportunity for that stretch to move into those of us who have the tight hamstrings and hips. It feels so good. You might even wag the hips a little side to side. On your inhale, extending halfway up, hands on shin bones. On your exhale, tuck the tailbone like you're coming into a cat back and use that to stick to chair. And how do you do it that way? Because we don't want to have the butt way out behind like so. We want a nice stable core. And from there, you should be able to even hop. Left, I heard that. Come under the balls of the feet if you'd like the balance challenge. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Once again, tune in. Finding that breath wave that rises, settles up the whole spine. If you're not already at the front of the mat in mountain, we'll find our way there. 4 to 6 inches between feet. Take a moment and plant your big toe and then spread the other toes out if you can. You know, it's just like with our hands when we extend and spread. And that actually increases balance. If your toes are curled and you're kind of holding the mat, you won't have as much stability as if they're extended. On a long inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, lifting the left knee, standing crane. And just sort of bending the standing knee so I've got a little buoyancy. We're going to slowly straighten that bent knee in front of us if you're slowly kicking a barn door open. And then releasing it back to either warrior one or lunge. In either one, we want the hip bones to steer, right hip bone back, left hip bone forward. And find your position. Maybe it's arms up. Some people might be in steeple hands. Others might just be out in hug emoji. There's an opportunity here, and maybe some of you are already feeling for a stretch up that left hip, that back hip. We're going to intensify that now by taking the left arm. So the same leg you have back, take that arm up. And I'm just counter reaching down through the other arm and kind of looking out over my right, kind of not over my right shoulder, but down the right side of the mat. And I'm going to ask you to spend a few breaths just reaching and softening. On a long inhale, inviting you to circle up and turn your feet neutral, but then the other way. So you're now facing the back in that same shape that you were in. So check, please, that either you're on the ball of the back foot, or your back foot is flat in warrior one, which usually won't have as long of a stance to get that heel flat. And we'll find, again, our arm position. Find your alignment. Maybe the back leg is straight. Maybe you need to have it bent in order to get integrity. Wherever your eyes go. You want to feel a little bit of stretch through that right hip, but very grounded through the feet. And then we're going to slowly take that right arm reaching forward and up, left arm reaching down, looking out over the back shoulder. Once you're ready, we're going to circle out of this and we're going to fold into our straps. So both feet are straight. Knees are usually bent here. Some of you might have it straight. And we're gonna go side to side. I find this to be such an interesting movement for it being so simple. The amount of sensation that I have in my upper leg and around all those connections with the knee and the hip is really significant. And I may be tighter than a lot of you, but it's very noticeable. When you are ready, we're gonna rotate and walk the hands towards the front of the mat and step back downward dog. Make sure you've got right hip bone back, left hip bone forward before you do that. That's what's gonna put you in your core. Opportunity for spinal pumping, child's or cow cat or whole dog series, or of course resting and holding. Inhaling plank. If you're in full plank on your feet, check if you can pump. And if you go to knees, don't give up that core. Exhaling chaturanga, just to your integrity. Don't give it up. Then drop. Inhaling cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling downward facing dog. Taking those feet wide into our bear stance again. A couple of deep breaths, really relaxing through the shoulders. And if you want to add a little heart rate, take your butt. And I have fun kind of noticing how lightly I can land. So that's a part of the core thing too, is you're hopping, but you're not kind of collapsing with gravity, right? All right, and then we're gonna hop forward. If you'll join me, otherwise you can just walk forward. Hiya. Inhale, root rise. Exhaling, perfect. Tune in. Right. Come to our mountain stance again. Obviously, amend things, make it work beautifully for you as we go. Inhaling, sweeping out and up. Exhaling, right knee lifts, standing crane. And buoyant on that standing leg, noticing what's happening in the ball of that standing foot. Squeeze that inner thigh towards the center if you need to create more downward power. And we're gonna press straight forward through our right heel. And release back. Your choice, crescent lunge or warrior one. And we're gonna this time do some back and forth. So I'm gonna start by reaching my right arm forward, left arm down. Then we're gonna just rotate and look out over that back arm. So it's like a warrior two, but I'm not bothering with my back foot. And then I'm gonna go back to that original reach. So it's right arm up, left arm down. Feeling, I hope, a stretch through that right hip. And then looking out over your right arm. Let's do that one more time. And now we're gonna turn both feet. And you got it. We're facing the back of the room in that same stance, whether you're in crescent lunge or warrior one. And we're gonna reach that left arm forward and up, right arm down. You could do this from the inhale in this move and exhale, rotate those arms essentially to your warrior two and look out over that back hand. And again. Even little twists like this can be quite profound. So good for us. All right. We're going to come out into our straddle. So turn both feet straight down. Fold. You could be pumping the hips, by the way, in your fold. You could kind of dip the butt and hips towards the floor. You can go more into that side to side and hold to each side for a breath or two. And we're going to slowly rotate, hands towards the front of the mat, steer left hip bone back, right hip bone forward. And I'm going to have you pause. We're not going to step back right away. We're going to come into just a little pose to make sure we're in our core. See if you can raise your arms out to your sides in a glider plane and get your belly up off your side. That's our core support. And we want to use that nose. We plant our hands, step back down and face the time. Please notice, where does your system need to go? Holding, downward dog, amazing pose. Resting, like child's pose or ragdoll. One more opportunity for flow if you're hungry for it, dog series or otherwise. Integrity. Slow, breath-filled integrity. Awesome. Yes, you're stopping at the integrity point. That's perfect. Gorgeous. Oh, that was a nice thing. She did plank to chaturanga on feet. And then when she wasn't able to hold that anymore, dropped knees and held that. That was cool. And then went down. I love it. All right, my friends, we're gonna roll over on our back body and place the block under the sacral triangle. So when we did our release wind pose early on, if you noticed a difference in like one of the hips, extended leg one, this is a nice chance to kind of breathe into some of that, especially when you're in the extended version. Hold on, don't lay onto the block, lay down, lift the hips, put the block under, just because you could get injured. There's so many tiny little sutures around the sacral area. So I usually hang out there with my knees bent first, and then I move to the legs straight, but just see what feels good to you. I hope this feels marvelously relaxing. We are just draping ourselves. We're not trying to maintain any particular foot alignment or anything like that. I'm so curious if you have anything to share with each other, not required, but if you have a word that would describe just, how you're feeling as a result of today's practice, that would be fun to just sort of shout that out. Integrated. Integrated. Oh, cool. Gratitude. Gratitude. Oh. Delighted. Delighted. That's delightful. And I love integrated. I'm reminded that, yoga, the word yoga, it's to yuj is in Sanskrit, means to yoke together or unite body, mind, spirit. And I often find that when I feel kind of out of sorts in my being, in my kind of emotional, mental states, that working with the body can be my entry point to feeling more integrated and more harmonious. That if I've been neglecting the body, if I haven't been stretching it or exercising it or giving it the attention it needs, maybe I've not been eating well or drinking too much alcohol, like all those things that deplete or challenge the body will end up affecting my spirit state as well. Stay here only as it's feeling perfect. When you do come off, nice and slow, and usually knees to belly would be a nice counter pose. When you are complete, I'm going to invite you to come up to a seated position. We're going to do a little self massage. With our jumping, we already got some nice lymph movement, I trust, but we're going to do a little lymph rub and also love of our feet. So if you noticed any, kind of sore spots or kind of arch dysfunction, this can be a nice way to love them up. Also using a tennis ball or what have you can be so helpful. But we're just going to sit in kind of a loose diamond shape. So we're not trying to get the feet close to us. And what we're going to do is use our core to draw back in order to hinge forward to apply pressure. So I'm going to bring my thumbs right under the ball of the big toe, kind of right where the ball meets the rest of the arch. And I'm just going to alternatingly kind of press. So I'm pressing one thumb up underneath the other, and you'll see it kind of flex and move your foot. Anybody have any points of excitement? Oh yeah, see a couple facial expressions. Yeah, and I find if I explore, especially if you're exactly on the bottom of the foot and you're kind of like, I'm not feeling anything, move just a little towards the inside of the foot. Doesn't take much, and you will get into some points of excitement. Our feet are such a wonderful entry point to our entire body, our organs, our circulation, our mood. I've learned a lot about it over the years, watching my mom do her work and being worked on. If you find something intense, you might just close your eyes and breathe into that spot. And then when you're ready, you can kind of continue that line from the ball and a little on that inside of the foot versus the direct bottom. Continue that line towards the heel. And then you can even get into that flat space kind of under the ankle bone, where I'll tell you, it's kind of stingy and nasty, but useful again. And you can just kind of use your thumbs to sort of move the flesh from the ankle bone towards the bottom of the foot. You kind of get in there and you kind of pull on the skin a little bit. Be a little zingy. I find it fascinating to some of the other body responses that I'll have, like salivating. And I know I'm not the only one. When we've done lympha, a bunch of people have gotten a zinger like up in the rib cage. So clearly, and there's channels that connect. But it's just so fascinating to me. You're like, it's just my feet. Why would it have any other effect? All right, when you're ready to move into, actually, before we do lymph node, let's release at the end, just give you a little general. And actually, you can do a final, like, really deep bend of it by bringing your thumbs under the ball, your hand, the rest of your fingers on the outside, and just curl those toes together. It's a really nice movement. Oh, and I've got one more thing. Take a hold of one big toe with usually the opposite hand. And so I'm using my left hand on my left foot to just support it, and then take my right hand to my left big toe, circling it, and then go to the other side. And it's really worth noticing differences. If one side is a little stiff and bunged up, it would be really great to continue working on it and try to figure out where that tension is coming from. If you follow the gap between your big and second toe, and you just take even your index finger up that gap to, there's a point where it stops because it's hard, right? If you just rub that soft point there, it can be quite interesting. And this is I know it's an acupuncture as well as acupressure point. I think generally for good like life force and so on. So it's really interesting to notice if one side is kind of congested or stiff and maybe something's even misaligned. Bless you. All right, now to the lymph. Keep promising. Jeez. So again, very important. I'm on my sits bones, rooting and rising, big inhale, exhale, belly to spine. I'm going to rotate and I'm going to use my opposite thumb. We've often done them both up. I want to see if we can get a little more power. So I'm taking left hand, if you will, to my right space. And it's that soft space just inside of the shin bone. Kind of keep a nice breath going. Yeah, nice little rocking motion. Help you make that journey. And part of the reason I want to try opposite hand today is a lot of times I see people and they're winging and shrugging. So I'm hoping this encourages us to get more kind of core power involved, less neck. And after you've made your way kind of up once, begin again, and I want you to just sort of pause at each real hot spot and take a couple of breaths. Let's find the other side again here. Exhale, belly to spine, rotate. Begin. Checking in with neck tension, breathing. You can even kind of come out of your twist a little, big inhale. Exhale, rotate or support. And again, when you've completed, begin again and just find those hot spots, love them up with your breath. When you're done with both sides, then I'll invite you to bring your hands one to each leg, and you're simply going to be rotating. You're kind of gripping and then using a rotation so that your thumb kind of pulls down on the calf muscle. It can be kind of intense, but I think mostly in a good way. Don't shrug. So habitual. I know. I understand. And when you feel done with that, you might again just give it a kind of little whack. And then you're going to find your resting shape. So if you need a bolster, if you need a blanket, whatever would help you settle in, either grab it or give me a way to tell me what you need, and I'll be happy to go get it for you. Thank you for sharing your words of what the practice has inspired in your system. And I want to remind you that just having even a low end commitment to start your day with 3 breaths with awareness can actually help take you into those states of integrated and grateful and delighted and presence and so on. Especially the more you do yoga and meditation, it becomes entrained, and it does not take that much to access that wisdom. For now, know that you have accomplished everything you came to do. Now we simply let the body integrate. You might focus your exhales on letting the body get progressively heavier, sinking with gravity down, down, down.
Bye. You bet. Bye-bye.